Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be talking about Legacy, A Black Physician Reckons with Racism in Medicine by Uché Blackstock. So this is a memoir that I picked up for Nonfiction November, and this book was put on my radar because I followed the Diverse Spines Instagram page, and this was their November book club pick, and so it just sounded really interesting. I enjoy a memoir, and this is definitely, something that I would be interested in reading about and things like that. So the author grew up in Brooklyn with her twin sister Oni, and the two of them basically have just like always known that they would become doctors. Their mother was a physician, and even like was in charge of one of the Black women physicians like organizations in the area and things like that. Growing up, they would play with her stethoscope and medicine bag and try on her white coat and all of these different things. And so to her, it was like basically like a known thing that one day she would also become a doctor just like her mom. However, there are lots of things about the medical field and the medical industry in general that she didn't realize growing up, and even going through medical school. She didn't fully realize the extent that racism plays a part in this system, in the medical system, especially here in the United States. She talks about the fact that only 2% of all physicians in the United States are Black, despite the fact that they're around, I think, like 13% of the population. There's a significant amount of like practices and procedures that are discriminatory against Black people. A lot of the studies and known things about healthcare are done on like white men, and so therefore people of color and women are often like left behind, or they have like just different reactions or different symptoms to things that are just like not known or studied or thought about at all. There are policies in place that make it so that way Black Americans tend to get worse medical coverage and well-being compared to even white people of a similar economic background. All of these different things, and these are all like ideas that the author talks about throughout the course of this book. So while this is a memoir, it talks about like her growing up, seeing her mother be a doctor and how inspiring that was for her, and just like her experiences with going to medical school and her experiences at the various hospitals that she was a resident at and eventually worked at, and all of these different things. It also talks about some of the historical aspects of the medical industry in the United States that like she herself wasn't aware of until she got older. Even going to, really well-renowned schools like Harvard Medical School, like she had no idea about someone like Henrietta Lacks, even though she was using HeLa cells in her science classes, until like after medical school and stuff like that. She worked at hospitals that were extremely well-funded and well-staffed, and often served the people in the highest classes, as well as like volunteered and worked at other hospitals that served communities that were potentially struggling, and the lack of resources that they're given access to and things like that, and the disparity between the levels of care that are provided. So I really enjoyed my experience with reading this book. It's a really fast read. Like, it's not very long at all. Like, it's very easy to read. Like, it's written in a way that's very conversational, and I feel like the author does a really good job of like both talking about her experiences in a way that even if you have no real experience in the medical field, you can understand what's going on here. A lot of the stuff that's talked about in here, at least personally, I feel like I was already aware of. So there wasn't anything in here that was like overly shocking or anything along those lines. But I think that if you're someone who hasn't really looked into the disparities in the medical field and things like that, basic things like knowing about Henrietta Lacks, or like more recent observations around like pulse oximeters with COVID, and the fact that they're less accurate on people with more pigmented skin, stuff like that, then like this book is really a good like first step into looking at those cases and just looking at how systematic racism really does affect just every aspect of life. She talks about her own experiences with dealing with COVID, and the Black Lives Matter movement and things like that, and how that impacted the work that she was able to do, as well as her own experiences with like just coming across people who did not care or wanted to just use her as kind of like this diversity token hire, and how like her work has changed and evolved over time as she has just learned more about the ways that the medical field does and doesn't help people. And so there's like this section in the book that's like basically a call to action, where the author like addresses various groups of people and asking them to like do something specific. So she addresses like fellow Black medical students and physicians and tries to encourage them through like the obstacles that they face, talking to non-Black physicians and asking them to do their part to help break down some of these barriers, talking to people who might not even be in the medical field and what they could potentially do. And so I really appreciated that aspect of the book, because reading about stuff like this sometimes can feel a little bit like, gosh, the world is broken and what can we possibly do about it? But this book has like very clear call to actions about things that everyone can do in order to help break down these sort of racial barriers that exist in the systems around us. I think that this book is a good blend of both memoir as well as like American history, as well as like really data driven sort of this is what's going on in our world today, that I think is a really well done balance. And it's a book about healthcare inequality that I think everyone in the healthcare industry should read, or it just is like a 101 of like what is going on that you might not even be aware of unless you're, confronting these things on a regular basis. Yeah, overall, like I said, I really enjoyed my experience with the book. I feel like this is a really good kind of starter point for anyone who might be entering the medical field, or even currently working in it. But I think that even if you don't work in it, everyone, at least in the United States, at some point in time is going to interact with the medical field. And so I feel like this can be a really good starting point in being an eye-opener for some of the disparities that happen for Black people specifically in the medical industry. So yeah, those are my quick thoughts on Legacy. Let me know down in the comments below if you've picked up this book, or if you haven't yet and you have any questions, feel free to leave your questions down in the comment section as well. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.